If you haven't heard of or at least seen The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, can you show me which rock you've been living under? Because I want to visit, first of all. Second of all, let's get into it because I have a lot of thoughts I want to share. I know you've heard so many takes about this show, about Mormonism in general, but as with everything I discuss on this channel, I really only bring it up because I feel like I have unique thoughts to contribute. Also, as a journalist, just kidding, I'm not a journalist, but I like to pretend I am. As a content consumer, I have seen an exorbitant amount of TikToks regarding this show. And with all of that context and just information, I wanted to bring it all to you. First, I want to talk about Whitney. I was talking about my friend about this, and I didn't have a problem with Whitney at first. And then I watched more of the season than she did. And she was like, I actually like Whitney. And I was like, just wait. Just wait. And then the reason that she ultimately was like, okay, I'm over Whitney, was because of the pregnancy test cake. When Whitney learned she was pregnant, the way she announced it to her family was by baking a cake with her pregnancy test in it. But don't worry, the lid was on. I'm sorry, I know you're Mormon and everything, but you guys do believe science, right? Actually, maybe that's also, yeah, that's debatable as well. Any hoozle. So now I'm going to jump back to the beginning of the show. Essentially, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is about this group of women who have come together and call themselves Mom Talk because, according to them, they make TikToks about being a modern Mormon mother. And Mom Talk has shifted in what their mission is and how they present and the people involved over the course of some years. Okay, so the group that is currently considered to be Mom Talk is not what it once was, which I find funny because a lot of people keep, I mean, there's literally a joke on TikTok where people are like, what's going to happen to Mom Talk? Like, what is Mom Talk? What is going to become of Mom Talk? Is Mom Talk going to be okay? And like, if you're watching it, you're just like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you TikToking about? Because it's not like a college, a club, an official organization, a church even. It's just this group of women. So it's like, it is what you want it to be, right? Also, I've never seen this group of women ever on my TikTok. I'm on TikTok every day for a really long time too, okay? So personally, they have not come across my page. I will say, of course, like obviously my algorithm is not showing me that kind of content. It is now, trust and believe, but the content that got them to where they are, I'm not familiar with it. However, I did learn about Mom Talk when Taylor announced the whole swinging scandal, came out about that. And I didn't listen to any podcasts or watch like a ton of videos about the context with that as far as like what happened before the documentary came out in regards to Mom Talk, but basically there was soft swinging going on. Taylor talked about this on this podcast, The Vile Files, and there was soft swinging. So I'm going to summarize this. Long story short, these people are Mormon. They didn't experiment a whole lot before they got married, or if at all. I believe Taylor's husband had only ever been with her, like in a sexual context. And so they're soft swinging, which means they're with just one other couple, and at first, at least. And they were just like making out with each other in front of the others. And that, of course, progressed, and people caught feelings. And of course, it turned into a whole mess because, you know, they're new to this, and swinging is not an uncommon thing. It's not abnormal. However, in this case, these people are young, extremely young. Taylor in this documentary, she's only 28, I want to say. And so, you know, these people are in their 20s. They're very inexperienced in terms of any alternative relationships, let alone lifestyles. So as far as swinging goes, they don't know that it's an actual lifestyle with like helpful guidelines as far as setting boundaries and things to keep you safe, like physically, and to keep your relationship safe and whatnot. That being said, it does seem like Taylor and her husband were kind of going to like go separate ways eventually. Maybe that's just me, but when you watch Taylor in this show, she clearly has that, I want to say like wild side to her, but I feel like it doesn't sound like what I'm trying to convey. Basically, she reminds me of me in a sense where I grew up as a Christian. I've talked about this in a lot of my videos, but like I just knew that I had to experience certain things and explore certain things and in my own way, and nothing was going to prevent me from doing that. And Taylor is somebody who, despite the fact that she does identify as Mormon, is very curious about a lot of things in life. She is very curious about love. At the same time, I feel that she still really wants that traditional lifestyle, which is why she is in a toxic relationship, unfortunately. Common thing in a lot of religions and outside of religion. Let's be real. People are toxic, but also very common in Mormonism specifically, because people get trapped, and you see it in the show. Taylor's parents are trying to get her to marry Dakota, and she's like actually being smart about this and being like, well, hold on, like of course the idea of a big happy family makes me happy, but how do we expect to have a successful marriage when we're like fighting this much at the beginning of our relationship? Like, this is supposed to be the honeymoon phase. So, it's sad to see. Like, I'm glad that Taylor is able to thrive in her own way, but it is really sad to see this leech, Dakota, sticking to Taylor when I feel that she just has so much she to offer, like so much she wants to express. Okay, so let's go back to Whitney really quick. I said this in a TikTok. I think that Whitney is jealous of Taylor and some of the other women on it, if we're being real. But specifically Taylor, I think she's jealous of her because she's like, Taylor blew up Mom Talk when she talked about the swinging thing, and like not everyone wasn't even doing that, and da da da. But I think she's just jealous. I think that's one of the things. I also think Whitney is narcissistic, in my unprofessional opinion. That's what I see. Being around some covert narcissists myself, because she has a really hard time empathizing with other people. She only expresses her own opinion, and she's purposefully taken herself out of certain situations because, in her words, she's like, I don't feel like we're real friends, and da 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 da. But at the same time, she'll leave a situation and be like, nobody called me, nobody checked on me, nobody texted me. And it's like, you're the one who left that situation. So it's like this attention-seeking behavior is alarming, to say the least. In the beginning of the season, Whitney reveals that her husband was on Tinder, which a lot of people have said it was actually Grindr and not Tinder. And I haven't found like a solid answer on that. So I don't know. That being said, somebody on TikTok, I've seen a couple of videos, I think, pointing this out, that Whitney said the words sexually confused when referring to her husband. Michaela, in one of her confessionals, she also used that specific phrase. He was sexually confused, which, if you've been in the church, Mormonism or any others that aren't affirming of homosexuality, then you know if somebody's sexually confused, they're gay. It's just it's like the jargon of religion, of this particular religion. So I feel it's pretty obvious that Whitney's husband, I think his name's Connor, is gay. And I don't like want to be the one to speculate on that. I'm just telling you what literally half the TikToks I'm watching are saying. I only bring things like that up because being gay is great. Like, if you are what you are, and there's nothing wrong with that. The church does not feel that way. And I don't believe that shame has a place. So I like to talk about it because I really think that a big part of deconstruction, like leaving the church, leaving any high control situation, is believing and understanding that you as your whole person, just as you are, is worthy, and your creator, whoever that is, accepts you, like made you that way, and also accepts you that way, if that's, what you believe. So it's just sad. It's really sad to see. And I'm not even just talking about him. I'm talking about like everybody in the church, like in a lot of ways, specifically in the Mormon church. I shouldn't say everybody. From what we can see from this show, let's just keep it to the show. People, if you want to be a part of a religion like Mormonism, you have to close off certain things about yourself to be a good Mormon. And I understand that's part of it because, again, like I was in the evangelical Christian world briefly, and a big part of that religion is denying yourself. Denying oneself is hugely important. And so it's almost like an opportunity to sacrifice to God. That's the mentality of it. But I think it's so messed up. I mean, obviously, I think it's so messed up for a lot of reasons. But also, like, how is it that it has to be your sacrifice when, if somebody was just like, somebody who's just born straight, and let's say they naturally fall in love with another straight person who's in that same religion, like, why is it that they get to cohabitate, have children, do whatever they want, and it's praised by the church? You know what I mean? And it's because of, the words written down by the scammer Joseph Smith. Also from the Bible, or the Book of Mormon, I guess, takes things from the Bible. I've never read the Book of Mormon, so Mormons, correct me, please. I know I'm really hard on Mormonism, but it's just because I know former Mormons, and having a taste of a fraction of that in the evangelical church alarms me. And yeah, I think we have to point these things out. Okay, moving on. So they specifically point out a lot in this show that as Mormons, they cannot partake in things like caffeine or alcohol, and obviously like illicit substances like drugs and things, right? Makes sense. In the next scene, however, Literally in one case, in the next scene, they're at a Botox appointment and taking laughing gas to get through, the procedure. Nitrous oxide. Yeah. But they don't do substances as Mormons. It's interesting, isn't it? I've never taken laughing gas. I did a whippet once, but don't do that. It's so bad for your brain. It's so bad for you. And that's the thing, is they specifically are like, we don't do these things because they are bad for your body. And like, we're about, being good to your body and things. Ma'am, you are injecting foreign substances into your face or wherever else, and silicone and filler and whatever. And I'm not even judging that. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy, I guess, of not even these individuals, but like of Mormonism. Because in the same breath as talking about like purity and things of your body, they're talking about cosmetic procedures, because as a woman especially, it's your job to upkeep your look. I can't even imagine the amount of money these women spend on hair extensions. Honestly, this show should have been called The Secret Life of Hair Extensions, if we're being honest. Lash extensions, spray tans, probably tanning booths for some of them. Jesse, I don't know. Botox, fillers, again, any other cosmetic procedures. Like, so I'm just saying, if we're talking about like purity of your body, like what's the line? It's just odd. And then also, of course, we're talking about these people who are obsessed with soda, or as I like to call it, pop. But I'll call it soda because that's what they call it. So if you're not familiar, if you haven't been on like Utah TikTok or whatever, they're obsessed with soda because of course they can't have caffeine or alcohol. So anytime they're at like a social event or just, getting up in the morning, they drink their soda. But it's like, it's about purity of your body. Ma'am, are you aware of sugar? Should we take a path down the story of things like diabetes and heart disease? There are so many ways to desecrate your body if you so choose. And listen, I'm a substances girly. I love my substances. I do. So I'm not pointing a finger. Like, I drink pop every day, almost every day, or some kind of fizzy drink. Like, I love carbonated beverages. I'll take it all. But it's the hypocrisy of it. It's like, how are you for this pure living when you're also not living purely at the same time, but claiming you are? It's like, it's the cherry picking for me. It's the cherry picking. Okay. So, and speaking of, after this show came out, a lot of people, Mormons, have been like, this show is not an accurate representation of our faith, da 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 da. And I'm like, I actually think it's a perfect representation because it's exposing a lot of the hypocrisy and just a lot of the ways in which people, I'm trying to be diplomatic, I'm trying it. The ways that things like getting married from a young age are encouraged. Things like having children from a young age are encouraged. Don't even get me started on Michaela. Just kidding. We're going to talk about her right now, actually. Michaela got pregnant at 16 by a 21-year-old who proceeded to marry her. Which is interesting because he looks like a boy to me still, but it doesn't matter what he looks like. Fact is, that's disgusting. Can you imagine? There's no excuse for it. at the same time, I understand that people are pressured to date from such a young age and get married from such a young age. And my point is, I guess, my point is to point it out, okay? That's my point, because she's with this man, they're raising kids together, and I want the best for those kids and for them, but it's alarming that that is not an uncommon thing in Mormonism. It's just not. Macy's a true friend. That's all I'm going to say on her, because I really like her. Jesse is also like kind of a side character, and I actually am I think they did such a good job with the casting, because they're all interesting. Like, I want to know about all these women, and we're left wanting more for like future seasons. As one TikToker described it, it's like you have your main characters like Whitney and Taylor, but a lot of the other characters are foils. So like Jesse's a foil. Like, we don't really know about her. She and her husband clearly are a little more open-minded, because her husband was drinking alcohol at Jen's house, and everyone was like, oh, that's so disrespectful and stuff, and da-da-da. And it's like, I get that, like, the disrespect and stuff, but also I'm like, he has a flask of vodka, okay? Like, it's not like he's coming in here with like a freaking keg. You know, he's just sipping it off to the side. But I don't really feel like that's for me to decide to say, as far as, you know, judging how that was received, because at the end of the day, when you're under somebody's roof, like, I understand respecting their rules. I don't know. Have I snuck alcohol into people's places that are dry? Yes, I have. However, I'm drinking it secretly. I'm not like pulling it out in front of people and making a big show of like, ooh, it's vodka. Which is a really interesting thing about this show, is that, you know, there's like a palpable element of immaturity about certain things, because the sheltered way that they are raised, kind of. And like, that's not a dig, by the way. That's not a dig at all. It's just like, it's fact. And so like, you are made to feel like the bad girl if you're like sipping vodka. Whoa! But, you know, the thing is, like, teenagers are teenagers everywhere. People in their 20s are people in their 20s everywhere. They're the same everywhere in the world. It just looks a little bit different. So like, being, you know, worldly and sinful myself, like, you can watch this show and be like, that's light work. But it's also like, you know, that's, to them it's not. To them, they're the black sheep, we'll say. So I respect that. Like, I respect them stepping out of their bounds, because like, for me personally, I'll be with some groups of friends that I have, I'm like the most innocent, like, naive person there, who's like least experienced. Other groups, I'm freaking, I was gonna say Madonna. Like, am I 100 years old? You know what I mean? Like, do I have any other references? No. You know what I mean, though? Like, I'm the risque one, we'll say. Okay. So, okay. Whitney was cold for the Fruit Loops thing, for giving Demi the Fruit Loops. Or was it Fruit Loops? No, she gave her, basically, Demi had shared a story in confidence that her husband like ate Fruit Loops out of her. And like, the only thing I have to say to that is, don't do that. Like, don't put things that are not safe for your body, for that part of your body, into that part of your body, because like, I don't know, I don't want to like disrupt the ecosystem, you know. It's not recommended. I'm sure it was fine. I'm sure it was fun. And listen, you gotta get creative. You do sometimes. So I just thought it was really shady that Whitney went through the effort for this nice event. They're going to a Galentine's Day event, to find a perfect size box, to purchase the cereal, to pour it into the box, wrap it up, bring it over, and then hand it to Demi. Like, I would do that with like my best friend as a joke or something, like behind closed doors. But this was shared in confidence. So not only is she doing this in front of all of the girls, she's doing it on the show. Which, like, in terms of reality television, is like, good for you, Whitney, because she has definitely paved her way to be a main character for that. At the same time, you're not a good friend. Like, Whitney continues to prove how she's not a good friend. And like has again stated she doesn't want to even be their friend. She's like, we're not even really friends. It's like, okay, bye then, bye. The last thing I think I'm going to talk about for this video, because it's getting longer than I initially planned, typical, is Jen. Okay. I don't feel like I have to say much about Jen in terms of her relationship. If you're on TikTok, you already saw all the discourse. Basically, Jen is in a terrible relationship with a terrible man. His mom and relatives even came out and said, Hulu's in the interest of ruining families. Zach, who's Jen's husband, Zach is like the best guy you've ever met, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, do you see how the Mormon church does this? Actually, Heather and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City talked about this a lot. They protect their men. They really do. They go out of their way to portray this narrative that Jen is like putting their family at risk and things. I'm sorry. I believe that was the man who threatened to divorce her. What? Why did I say it like that? To divorce her because her friends brought her to a Magic Mike show that she didn't even attend. She was just backstage around some shirtless guys for a few minutes and didn't even look at them. Like, she was scared. She was scared of what he would do to her. Red flag number 5,000. He doesn't respect her. I really hope the best for her, regardless of what that looks like. I really do. And that for her children. But it absolutely concerns me. Absolutely. And something that somebody brought up in a TikTok again, Jen, when speaking about her mother, she said, let me put it this way. My mother is a cleaning lady at the same hospital where Zach's father is a surgeon. So unfortunately, the way she discusses her mother, it seems to be more from a place of shame and not from a place of being proud of her. Because, you know, who cares if she cleans? Like, that's honestly, like, that cleaning is a solid career, and fortunately doesn't get, like, you don't make as much money as you should. But the reason that she's in that role and that Zach's father is in his role is there are a lot of factors there. You know, it's not a bootstraps thing, it's a privilege thing, 100%. And I say that because Zach is going to med school to become a surgeon as well. So clearly this is something that is like in their family, that they're trying to continue this trajectory. And Jen, I believe she didn't seem to speak very highly of her family or of her mother. And a big part of that is because Mormonism is hugely white, and for a long time didn't even accept non-white people as part of Mormonism. So it's sad to see people who have like themselves been brought into the church and then their descendants brought into the church, seeing them struggle with that and clearly like feel a little bit on the outs because of that is, you know, it's just sad. Like, nobody should feel that way. And yeah, Mormonism is white, hetero, and strict. I think that's all I have to say about that. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna end it there. I feel like I have so much more to say, but I'm gonna cut myself off. Oh yeah, also, okay, this is just one more thing that I forgot to mention and meant to. Demi, oh wait, who was it? Two of the women, I think it was Whitney and Demi, did ketamine therapy, which, like, I have absolutely no judgment about that. I looked into it myself for depression, and it was so expensive, so I was like, nah, I'm good. But they said they did that, and again, I'm just like, look, I'm so pro that, especially for unpacking, like, trauma and for therapeutic things, but, you know, recreationally too, like, I'm not gonna stick my nose up at that. Maybe wrong phrase to use, but again, it's like, wait, you don't use substances? I'm pretty sure you do. Actually. So they don't keep it real, but that's religion for you, in my experience. Cutting myself off for real this time. Okay, love you guys. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and yeah, come back for more. I have so many other things to say. The next video I'm going to film is about Chimp Crazy, which is on Max. Ugh, so much to say about that. Cannot wait to do a deep dive on the chimp world. It's Tiger King 2.0 is actually made by the documentary maker who did Tiger King. So highly recommend you watch it and then come back for that conversation. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.